Hi everyone. So in the last class we have discussed the Get connection. So today we'll just do the recap before moving further to the class. So we have discussed Get connection is a static method, right? Which returns the connection object, and we have to bestow that object into the connection variable. And so syntax is what is the syntax that we have to be right? It is the connection con is equal to driver manager get connection, and the three parameters is nothing but the URL, database URL, username and the password. For example, so connection con is equal to driver manager dot get connection. How we have to be set up the path? Nothing but JDBC colon Oracle colon thin colon at the rate localhost colon 1521 colon XC Express Edition, right? So system and username is system and password is admin. So what is how to get the statement and how to create the statement object? Statement stmt is equal to con dot create statement method, right? So here what happened? So driver class name, what is our driver class name? It is one class in the driver management, right? So it is nothing but the Oracle JDBC dot driver dot Oracle driver. So what is the URL? Database URL is nothing but JDBC colon Oracle colon theme colon at the rate localhost 1521 listener, right? And here we have to be just understood yesterday in the class. XC is the listener for the Oracle Express edition, and Oracle is the listener for the Oracle Enterprise Edition. And how to see that? We have to be go to the Windows and Services application, right? In the Windows run, then we have to be see the services. In the services, here it is. We have to be see the Oracle, which type of listener it is. Okay, or whether it is Oracle Express or the MNO. Yes. So which type of listener it is, we have to be check. Oracle service or ORCL, like that we have to be check. And so what is the username and password? Which this is the Oracle. How we have to be see the version, right? So this one we have seen username is system and the password is admin. Now, for example, connection properties to connect with the MySQL. Now we have seen the Oracle. Now we have to be see in the MySQL how we have to be write the driver class for MySQL. This is Oracle, right? Here in MySQL. So let me just write it for. Okay. Then the connection property to connect with MySQL. Connection property to connect with connection property to connect with MySQL. Which database? MySQL. Connect with MySQL, right? So here, connect with MySQL. What? What is the URL, database URL we have to be give? We will give first. We will give the driver class name, right? Driver class name. How we will give that? Com.mysql, right? Com.mysql cj and dot jdbc dot driver. So this is nothing but the class name and which package? com.mysql.cj.jdbc.driver. And what is the database URL we will give? Database URL is jdbc colon mysql colon double slash host or local host. This is the syntax I'm writing here. So host colon port number is, by default port number is 3306, right? So here slash which database, here. So this is the syntax and how we are writing here, JDBC colon MySQL colon double slash localhost. It is again the by default, and port number is common 3306. See here, this is a dot, this is a colon, looks like a dot. Okay, 3306, and database name is which we have given the test. Okay, and in the MySQL, what is my username? Root. It is password is root, as it is by default, and I keep it as it is. So it is nothing but the root, and password is also root as it is. I just took this one. If we want, we can change it now. So this is for the MySQL database. Now we have to be see the steps to write the JDBC program. Okay, steps to write the JDBC program. Here we have to be see steps to write the JDBC program, and from Java 8, um, loading the JDBC drivers from the Java 8 onwards, loading the JDBC drivers becomes optional, right? Suppose if you want to load the driver explicitly, then you have to be called the which method name, for name method, and it is a static method. And which class we have to be take this from the java.lag.class package, right? And so we have to be called the static method, which is nothing but the for name method. If we want to call the explicitly, then we have to be use the which method, for name method. And if you want to do it, you can do it, but it made as the optional. Okay, if at all you want to load it, then which method we have to call? For name method. For name is a method of class. Which one? Class dot for name. It is a fully qualified driver class name. Means what here? It is a package name plus class name. So which is called as fully qualified class name. And string is also the class name. Like I said, java.lang.string is going to be fully qualified class name. And how to establish the connection, that which we have already discussed, right, in the yesterday class. Like I told that to call the get connection method. Okay, get connection method, and how many inputs we have provided to this? Three inputs. What is that? First one is nothing but the database URL, username, and password. Yesterday we have discussed, right, like about how to create the statement object. Sorry. So I said already, once the connection is established, we need to create the STMT object, statement object, which is nothing but STMT, right? Statement object, because the statement object provides the method to execute our SQL queries. Okay, now what we have to do to send these queries to the database and to get back the result from the database, we need the statement object. Once the statement object is created, I told there is a method to call the create statement method, right? Create statement method. This one you have to be remember this, and this create statement method creates the which object? Statement object, and where it will store the object, it will store, and it will store it in the object variable, right? So what type of variable? Statement variable. Like do remember this statement. Actually, statement is a interface, right? Connection con is also an interface. Now driver manager is a class. So you have to be remember these points. What you have to know is connection and statement. Both are connection and statement. Both are the interfaces in JDBC API, and the implementation of these interfaces will be available in where driver manager. Okay, in the driver application, like we don't need to be worry about it, and JDBC API has provided some set of classes, right, and the set of interfaces for the developers. Okay, JDBC has provided set of classes and set of interfaces for the developers. So as a developer, we have to be use it, and we have to be use it in our programs to write our programs. But for the interfaces, implementation classes also required, right? So there are there is a there is no only use with this interfaces, but here only with interfaces we cannot do anything. What is required for the interfaces? What is the required? At least one implementation is required, right? So who will provide that implementation? Driver application. And connection is, what is the connection? Interface. And statement is interface. Both are from the which API? JDBC API. Okay, so where is the implementation of this both? Driver application or driver software. So we can call it application or software. So let me just write it so you can understand it clearly instead of saying this in air. So here I will write driver manager is a class. Driver manager is a class, right? And connection statements are interfaces from the JDBC API. Connection and statements. Connection and statements, right? Connections and statements are interfaces. This both are connection and statements are interfaces. Both are interfaces. From which API? JDBC API. From JDBC API. Okay, and for the interfaces provided in the JDBC API, then the application of the classes exist in which one? Where? Driver application, right? Yes. So for interfaces which is provided in the JDBC API. Interfaces pro- provided from which API? From JDBC API. Okay, and where this implementation classes will be existing? Driver application, right? Where this implementation classes exist in? Driver application. Implementation classes exist in implementation classes existing where? Exists in driver application. Driver application. Okay, we can call it as a driver application, or either we can call it as a driver software. So both the names are valid. Okay, so who will provide this implementation? Finally, driver classes. And what today we are going to be executing the queries. We are going to be executing some few queries. Okay, so who will provide the implementation? Driver classes. Now, executing the SQL queries means what is CRUD operations, right? So, which means select, delete, update, create, whatever you want. Okay, and for executing the queries, you have to be called the which method? For executing the queries, which method we have to be called? Executing the queries. Which which method we have to be called? There are two methods, right? I will explain now. Queries. Queries, okay. So let me just. Okay, so there are two methods for executing the queries. We need to be called delete. two methods. What are the two methods for the statement objects we have to be saying? Okay, so as we have discussed that two we have to be called the two methods call the two methods for the statement objects, right? First one is the execute update method. First one is execute update method. Execute update method, and what is the object inside the query? That is nothing but the string query. String query. Okay. So what's the method inside the string query? And the second one is nothing but the execute query. Execute update and execute query. Query. These are the two methods. When to call the execute method? Whenever you want to perform. Okay, when to call the execute method? Whenever you want to perform. Okay, which operations? Insert, update, delete. Right. Insert, update, delete. Update. So this type of operation we have to be called the execute method. It means nothing but the DML operations. So these are DML operations. Okay, so these are nothing but the DML operations. And when do we call this execute query methods? Inside this query is inside the object is nothing but the query, string query. Okay, so when do we call this execute query? So when you want to retrieve the data, then you have to be called the execute method, which retrieving the data is nothing but suppose we want to see the how many records in the table, like emp table or department table. On that time, we have to be use this execute query method. Execute query for the select operations, means select operations. Okay, so insert, update, delete, they are non-select operations because we are performing, we are modifying something, and execute the query only for the select operations. So now insert, this is the execute update is nothing but the non-select operations, and this is execute query is the select operations, right? For example, otherwise I'll just make it clear understanding. It is not going. Yes, it is moving. For for example, I'll just write it. For insert or update or delete. Update or delete operations. We have to call the which method? Execute update method. Is not capital, lowercase. Execute update method. Execute update method, right? And for the select operations, for the execute query operations, again execute query, which one, which one? Select operations, right? So here for the select operations we have to be call the execute query method. Execute query method. Hope this is clear. So when I call the execute update method, which returns me what? It will returns the integer values. Execute update. Okay, so if you do this thing like inserting one column, inserting one row, so one row is affected or one row is inserted, so it will you will get that type of option. So which is nothing but updating execute update method. Okay, on that time, like what it will returns, it will returns the integer because one row is inserted or number of rows affected will be the result. Example, you are writing the insert operation, how many rows are affected in the database, one row is inserted or one row is affected, right? For example, I'm deleting the records from the table, okay, from the EMP table. So whose salary is more than 50,000, then okay, whose salary is more than 50,000, then is the only one employee exist with the salary more than 50,000? No, maybe many or more than more more number of employees, right? Or zero, also you will get the number, it will return integer value. So what execute update method returns? Integer value. Execute update method returns the, it returns the integer values. Okay, so it returns the integer values. You can execute the insert, alter, create, truncate, drop. So these operations also used for the execute update method. So these are, everything is used for the first one, execute update method. But when you create the table or alter the table or when you drop the table, you will get the any answer like this, like how many rows are updated or affected or number. Does it shows? It will not show. It will because you're performing the create table, alter the table. On that time it will not show like this many rows are affected, right? It will not show, no. So it is not creating the table, or it is not altering the table, or truncating the table, or deleting the table, or dropping the table. So these are not belongs to the rows. Okay, so it belongs to the table structure, or we can call it as a schema, right? So we are not working with the inside records. It is it is belongs to the table structure or schema. So whenever I call execute update method, suppose you want to alter the table or structure, table structure from Java code. But what I want to say is, from Java application, we do not create the tables. Okay, is it possible? No, it is possible, but we do not do that. Okay, in the real-time application, what happens? There are separate database team. So we can call it as a database admin team. So that database admin team is available in the real-time application in the companies. Separate team will be available, that database team will take care of creating the table, constraints and the procedures, functions, triggers and rules. Separate team is available for that. From Java application, we do not create the database tables. Okay, manually for practicing, we can create it, the table from the Java code. Okay, for manually, we can create from our Java code, alter the table and drop the table, truncate the table. So whatever we want, we will do all these things from our Java application or Java code, right? If you want to do this, if you want to do all these things, then which method we have to be called? We have to be called the execute update execute update method only we have to be called, as we are just using this for our practicing purpose. Otherwise, separately in real time, that database admin team will be available, right? Execute method can also be used for performing, execute update method is also be performing for the DDL operations, right? And it stands for the data definition language, DML as well as DDL. But when you perform the DDL operation, if any rows is affected, like one row inserted or three rows affected, no, the result you will get the like negative integer on the time when you're performing the DDL operations. Okay, so it will show, you will get the negative integer. For example, I'm updating the records. Okay, for example, I'm updating the records with the records, but there is no records matching with my condition. Okay, so how many rows updated? Zero rows updated, right? So but when I'm executing some queries like create, alter something, what result I'm expecting? Negative integer, right? Execute update method can also be used to performing the DDL operations, but mostly we use it in the DML operations, because DML operations we don't do it from the Java applications. DML operations, we cannot do it from the Java applications. So not in the class point of view, I'm just saying in the real point of view, like we don't perform any DDL operations. When we are going to Spring Boot or Hibernate and all there, you don't need to create any tables, that is automatically generated. Okay, so whenever your application starts, automatically the table structure will be created. You don't need to create the table manually anywhere in the real time point of view. Okay, so whenever you are in JDBC, either you can create from the Java program by using the execute update method for our practicing purpose, which also perform the DDL operations, means four operations. What are that? Alter, truncate, drop. Create, alter, truncate, and drop. So you can also perform by using this execute update. Which one? Execute update method. And what it returns, what it returns, it will returns the integer values, right? Like number of rows affected, 3 rows are inserted, like that, means either inserted or updated or deleted. So we use the common word. On that time, it by default it will show affected, right? So this is the execute update method. Or let me just write it. Let me take this color. Yeah, it is red color. Okay. Here, execute method. Execute update method. Execute update method. I'll write this. Execute update method. What it will do? It will returns the integer value. Okay. Execute method. It will, okay, returns integer value. Integer. Okay. So which indicates what? Number of rows affected in the database, or number of rows inserted or deleted. Okay. So which indicates number of rows affected in database. Right. So for example, so this if we are writing the query by using the Java code, on the time we have to be mention the string query only, right? String query. String query. So I just mentioned it like this, string query. And what we are doing, suppose I want to delete from the EMP table whose salary is greater than 50,000. It's a query. It's your choice. Okay, your choice. Whatever you want, you can type the query. So I'm just doing this one. Delete from EMP. Delete from EMP where salary. Okay, salary column greater than how much? 50,000 or 5,000. 5,000, because 50,000 in EMP table we haven't given, so 5,000 only. So it's my query, and so you want whatever you want, you can type the query. So I just created only 6 rows, right, in that EMP table. Yes. So I want to perform this query. Now what it will show, it will just show like this. Int, okay, int counter. Int counter. On the time, first we have to be write this query statement. What is the object? stmt dot x, which query we are which method we are performing? Execute update. Deleting means comes under the update, execute update method. So execute update. Inside this object is query. Inside the object is query. Okay, here I have to be pass my query, right? So inside the query is nothing but the query. So what I'm doing here, so it will show like I'm using the delete query. Suppose if there is a 25 employees, suppose 25 employees whose salary is more than 50,000. Okay, then the count becomes 25. 25 employees whose salary is more than 50,000. Then what is the count? 25. I said 25 employees. Count will become 25. And I said whose employee salary is more than 50,000, count becomes 25. If there are no employees whose salary is more than 5,000, then the count becomes 0. Okay, so this is the first method, which is nothing but the execute update method. And what's the next method, which is nothing but the query, execute query, right? So for this execute query, when we have to call the execute query, so it is just used for only select operation. Here it is only for select select operations. Okay, this is used for only select operations. So let me just do this. Suppose I'm opening the MySQL plus. Okay, let me just open this MySQL plus, and I'm just typing. Okay, it is asking the username system and admin. So I'm using this select star from EMP. Okay, so what it is showing here, select, I'm just typing select star from EMP. Whenever I type this select star from EMP, I'm getting some rows. Okay, so this query I'm executing from my Java code. Some result I got, some result I will get. So where in my Java program to store this result, which I selected in the Java code, I need to store this value in the result set object. So it is called the result set object. So here it is showing the 8 records. Okay, when I type this select star from EMP, I'm getting some rows. So this query I'm executing from my Java code. And now same result I'll get where in my Java program. So to store this result which I selected in my Java, I need to store this in a which object? Result set object. Okay, so it's called a set of results for storing this data information. I hope now you understood this one. Okay, so in this result set object, it will store when I'm executing this query from my Java program. I'll get all the result, right? You can say. So I'll get all the result as here it is visible. So in my SQL plus, this output will come to my Java program. Okay, in which object I need to store in a result set object. Okay, so execute query method is used to perform which operation? What is coming from the Java code to the database? Selected records. How many records it will store in the result set object? Okay, so for better understanding, let me just write it here. So it would be a better. Okay, so let me just take this color. Okay, well, okay, so when you run a select query from the database, when you run the select query, run when you run a select query, when you run a select query from the database, the program receives from a database, the program receives what the program receives, the records, the number of records. Okay, so the program receives the records, right? So it is receiving the records at where it will be stored in the result set object. So where it gonna to be stored? In the result set object. So okay, so it is going to be stored in the result set object. So these records must be stored into the do here which object? Result set object. Result set. Result set object. Okay, so it is going to be stored in the result set object. So again, the result set is an interface, right? Interface or class, it is an interface where its implementation, the implementation will be in the drivers or the application driver applications, right? So a result set is an interface and the implementation is available in the drivers application. Okay, so whatever the interface are there in the JDBC API, okay, where there is a implementation will be always available in the driver application, or we can call it as a driver software as well. So I told the connection statements are interface, right? Connections and statements. So these are nothing but the interfaces. Where is the implementation will be exist in the driver's application, or the driver software. So we can call either of the word driver application. So driver manager is a class and interfaces is connections and statements. So let me just write it here so it would be a better. So connections and statements are, I think I already wrote connections and statements, which are nothing but what it is? Interfaces, right? Interfaces. And so where this drivers will be exist in the driver application, in the drivers application, connect in the drivers applications. So let me just how we have to be write the driver manager in a class. So let me just write this as for example. I'll take this kind of for example. Driver manager. Yes. So let me take this example how to write the query. Okay. So first we will write the right hand side query. And obviously whenever we are just writing a query, we have to be take this as string. This is a left side. Okay. Query is equal to select the star from which table? EMP table. Select star from EMP. Okay, where the department number is equal to 20, where the DPT number, where the DEPT number is equal to how much? 20 or 30. We have given some few records as a 20 and few records as a 30, right? So what it will do? It receives all the employees working under the department number 20. So as you can see here, so department number 1, 2, 3, 4. There are four employees are there. Okay, who is working under the department number 20. Now I want to execute this query in my Java application or Java code. Okay, I want to execute this query where in my Java code. I want all those employees details in my Java program, right? I want to know like which employee is working under the department 20. So that four employees details information I need. So does those like all the employees information I want in my Java application or Java code in my Java code. How to run this query? So can I call the execute update? No, we cannot call the execute update method. Then what we have to call? Execute query, because we are, as I mentioned here. So execute update is only for this one, insert, update and delete, and execute query is for select operations. So here I'm using the select operations in my Java code. So when I use the select operation, so what it will do, what I need to call execute query method, right? So on the time how we will write result set rs is equal to stmt dot execute query method. So let me just make it result set. Okay, so I have to be result set. R is small only. Result set R is equal to stmt. What is my object? Stmt dot execute query method. Stmt dot execute query method for select operations. Execute query method, select operations, and inside that the object is query object. So like this, I have to be, I'm passing this query. What it returns in the result set object means I need to be stored in the result set variable, right? So this is how we have to be write this result set variable. So let's move to the what is the first step for the writing JDBC program. What is the first step, like first step of writing the JDBC program? Obviously load the drivers, but that is optional now. Okay, and the second step is create the connection or establish the connection, and third step is create the query. Here we have already wrote here. Okay, create the statement. So this is the format of writing the JDBC program. Okay, so fourth step is nothing but executing the query. So what are the steps need to call? Which methods? Execute update or execute query method. Any one of them. Okay, so performing this execute queries, select operations, and insert update delete for the execute update method we have to be used. What execute update method returns integer value, number of rows affected, and what the execute query returns result set object, the result or rows selected from the database. Okay, they need to be stored in the result set object. And what is the fifth one? Process the result. Either you can print it using the system.out.println or print the result. You can take one by one record and perform some operations, okay, using for loop or while loop. With the help of these loops you can iterate one by one records, and you can do whatever the operations you want. And when you perform these operations means processing means display or do some operations on the data. For example, after selecting the employees from data, okay, after selecting the employees from the data, if that employee is working same current company more than 5 years, then I want to pick up that eligible employees for H1B visa holders. Okay, so what I will do, I will, those who are working in the company more than 5 years, so I'll just select those employees for to issue them H1B visa holder. Now this is visa topic is very interesting. I just want to explain it detail, but no problem. So we'll do that. Again, there is a chances that we can get distracted. So here, so those who are working more than 5 years, so I want to pick up that employees and issue them H1B visa. Okay, from a company. So that kind of operations are required. First, what I will do, I want to select all the employees from the table in which object I have that data result set. Next, the process is check the company in check in that company, like that employees from how many years they are working. So using a loop, while loop or for while loop. Okay, if the employee is working more than 5 years, then I would use that employee eligible for H1B visa from that company. That is called the processing. So that is nothing but a business logic, right? So, and what is that last step here in our JDBC program? Obviously, it is nothing but the closing the connection. Okay, point to understand, even though you don't close the connection, once your program execution is completed, okay, currently, once your program is completed, okay, running the JVM will be terminated, right? Currently running the JVM will be terminated. So when it terminated, the connection between your Java program and the database will closed. When it will terminated, when the when it will terminated, when the Java program and the connection between the database is closed, on that time it will terminate. Okay, so when you come to the server side application, not the JDBC program, it means like a standalone applications, like core Java programs, because you are learning now. Okay, later on this JDBC code. So we will write in server using the servlet or the JS. We will do that. Okay, in real time application, what happens when connection is open? Suppose you are one user, okay, to the server. One connection is open to perform some operation. Now I am another user. Somebody is another user. If everybody is using the connection is open, what happen? So let me to make you better understanding, let me just show this pictorial diagram. So here, just understand this, this is my server. What is this is my server. So I'll take this color. Okay, so this is the server and this is my database. What is this? This is my database. So what I am doing here, how I will connect from my server to the database using performing some operation. What happens if all the users are sending the request at a time? Okay, so here, so this is a user. So these are the users. What they are doing, they are just sending the request. Okay, so they are sending this request to the server. Okay, so let me just write here, this is my server and this is a database. Okay, it's a server and it's a database. So these three are users sending the request to the server. Okay, and the connection with the database, but server is not closing the connections. Server is, so let me just make this server. Yeah, so here it is. So just assume this is the connections. Okay, yes, so these are the connections that server from the database. Control. Okay, so what is happening? But sorry, so connection with database. Okay, but the server is not closing the connection. See, it is opening the connection. Okay, it is opening the connection, but not closing the connection, right? But the connection with the database and executing the request given by the user and sending the output to this user. Just sending this, sending the output to the user. But what happened, but what they are doing, they are not closing these connections. Okay, it is the user just approaching to the server and going to the connection, getting the connection back, but they are not closing the connection. Okay, if the number of connection will be increased like this for this user and this user and many user, the correct connections, okay, connections will be increased like this, it will affect the performance of the database. Okay, so all the servers, all the requests are coming to the server via database through the connections, but going back, but no one, so the connection is not getting close. So it what happens, the performance of the database comes down, right? So what happens in the future, more number of connections will be opened with the database. It feel very important, so database might not gives the correct response. So sometimes database may crash. There is a chances that it will get crashed. So what is the better way to write the code? Always when you write the queries, okay, when the work is done, okay, when you complete writing the queries, when you completed, then it is better that we have to be close the connection. Okay, when you are learning the JDBC, the difference you will not get in, but you will get whenever you are working with the server side programs. Okay, so that is the reason whenever the connection is opened with the database, when the work is completed, when the work is done, so no more queries to be, when the no more queries to work, always we have to close the connection. So what will happen, slowly the performance will be decreased in the database. It is very quite common, right? Let's just take an example. Okay, I want to ask you, first I open the Chrome browser. Okay, when I double click, it opens fastly. Okay, second time again I opened. Okay, so second time I opened the Chrome browser. Third time I have opened the it is loaded and it is opened. So what happens, I have opened 10 times, 10 times also okay, 20 times also okay. So 20 times I click the browser and I open the Chrome browser, and 30 times I open, so many Chrome browsers are opened already 30 times. So what happens, some there will be a loading issues, there will be a loading issues. What happens, the next 31st and 32nd response becomes very slow. Okay, it responded some slow. Okay, it might not open 32 times or 40 times. It happens continuously automatically your system. If this happens continuously, we are opening the browser, then finally what it will do, it will shut down your system, and otherwise it will crash, right? So same thing with the database also happened. So we have to be closely connection whenever our work is completed. So I can tell you one thing, you close the connection and statement, so both your wish. So those statements are created. Okay, statement 1 and statement 2. So you have closed the statement dot close and con dot close. So you have closed both the connections. You have closed. So those statements are created. Statement one and statement two. After the work is done, I want to close it. Then I can work with this statement two. So you can close the connection and statement object both. How to close that? Just call the stmt.close or similarly con.close, right? So we have to be end of the execution. We have where here I wrote, yeah. So here I will write stmt.close. So we are closing the connection, that we have to be mentioned here. And similarly for the con dot, similarly, okay, a con dot close, for con dot close. So like this, we have to be closely connections after performing, after our JDBC program. Once our query is done and the JDBC program, okay, in the JDBC program, if you don't want to write the statements, also it will work. But what happens if you are working with the server side application? If you don't write, what will happen? The number of connections will be increased and database may crash. So that's the main reason, whenever the work is done with the database, you have to be closely connections. Okay, so let me just write what are the steps that writing the JDBC program. We will start writing the application. Okay, we will start writing the code or the program. Okay, so for that, first you have to be get the confirmation whether you have the JDK. As we have already discussed, right, from the Java 8 onwards, it becomes the optional. What is optional? Here you can see drivers become, loading the driver become optional. Okay, so loading the JDBC drivers becomes optional. Okay, so for that purpose, we have to be check in which JDK we have in our system. Anything is fine. JDK 8 or JDK 11, right? So what I'm saying is I will go to the Google Chrome. Okay, here I will open the new tab and I will search for the JDK 8. Okay, so JDK 8 download. So driver, as I mentioned, so anything is fine. 8202 8U211. So it's better to go with the 8211. And first one is, see here, this is the development kit 211, right? Development kit. In this, here you can see JDK 8U391 x64. So we have to be always download the Windows x64 installer. So when you click this, you have to be put this check mark and click on this one. It will ask you to get registered and the login or sign up option. So anything, so it is not showing here, no problem. If you go with the JDK download 17, or if you want to get it registered, if it has the ID and the password, so you have to be particularly download that 8 JDK 8 download. Otherwise you just simply JDK download for the 7 JDK 17 or JDK 21 is also fine. So this is the first one. Here you can see 22, 21 and Java 17. So our operating system is Windows. Here x64 installer. So this one you have to be click on download, as I have already installed. For if you want to get the confirmation, like, then you have to be go to the prompt. Okay, command prompt. In this command prompt you have to be check Java hyphen version. So it will show which version it is there. It will show the version. It is showing the 21 version. So it will make you to log in. If you go with the Java JDK 8, then it will make you to log in password setting. You will get an email after creating the account. Once you set your password, then .exe file will get installed. Then you have to go ahead. Okay, then as we have write the program in our notepad or the Eclipse. Okay, so first program I written in the notepad, and second one is Maven, and third one like Eclipse. Okay, Eclipse with Maven, how to write these programs, we will discuss that to tomorrow's class. So after the notepad in IDE, automatically you will get the suggestions, and in the where in the notepad, like, you have to be write it manually, right? So when you will get the suggestions in IDE, it imports the statements. Whenever you press the control shift O short, this is the shortcut form to import the statements or the top right. Like you will have this type of statements, right? Import statements like array list, map, hash map. You have to be get the import statements, import.util, or you are not writing them manually, but if you want you can write it. You can have this java.util.array list, import.java.util list. You are typing like that in the notepad, and I'm getting it automatically. Okay, I need to be type it manually in the notepad. I can import one by one, or else simply I can type the uh, import java.sql dot star. So it is like a package name. One by one it will get. Okay, so in this package it contains everything. No, so one by one I will get in the java.sql dot driver manager. Like this is nothing but the java.sql connection, java.sql statement. So there is no results yet. So you know the exception concept, right? Whenever you call the JDBC method driver, okay, get connection method, so on that time what happens? So those methods throw the SQL exceptions. Okay, so those methods throws the exceptions. and it belongs to the which category? Checked exceptions category. So we have two types, checked and unchecked. If it is a checked, you must have to be handle it and try it, or you have to be propagate the exception with caller by using the throws keyword. Okay, for both checked and unchecked exceptions, so who is the base class of exception? Throwable. Throwable or object exception as a error runtime exception. Remaining all the class not found, SQL exceptions, or like that, file not found. Okay, so these type of exceptions you will get. So in D drive, which I saved this program in the D drive. Hi everyone. So today I have to show you how to write the program in Notepad, then how we have to be compiling. So this is I have opened the Notepad. So what is the program? What I want to do? I want to insert one record in my table. In which table? EMP table. So first I need to be right. Okay. So this program is to insert one record into which table? Into the table of EMP table, right? So here I'll give the class name, class insert underscore EMP. So can I use underscore symbol in class name? Yes, we can use it. Okay. Yes. So now public static void main method will have to be right. Public static void string args. So here you can write either dot 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 or array symbol. So it is like depends on our wish. So writing this program, what is our step one? As we have discussed, right? JDBC program steps. So what is our first step is load the JDBC driver. And I said step one is which is optional. So you have to be right here. Step one. Okay, step one, which is nothing but load the JDBC driver. Load the JDBC. Okay. C driver, which is nothing but the optional, right? Yeah. Here, which method I need to call for the class? For name, right? Class dot for name method. Here, I need to be put it in the double quotes. Oracle dot JDBC dot driver dot Oracle driver. Close colon. This red color looks so messed up. Okay, so I have to call the for name method, so which I have done. Now I just want to print it, that I have used the class name, and whether the driver is loaded or not, I have to be print. So for that you have to be write the system.out.println, system.out.println. What you will write? Driver is loaded. You want to get the confirmation, so you have to be writing driver is loaded. Right. Now what is our second step? So we have to be get the confirmation whether, and it is an optional one, but we have to be checked to get it print. So step 2. What is this? Step 2 is nothing but establishing the connection. Establish the connection. Here we have to be right. It is a string, right? Database URL. So what is the URL we have to be give? String database URL is equal to JDBC dot colon Oracle colon thin colon at the rate localhost colon 1521, and it is a which edition? Express edition. So we have to be close it after giving this double colon and colon. Right. So what we have to be give? So we have made the connection. We have created the database URL. Now what is this username and password we have to give? So that is again string username. What is the username? Is system, and password. Password which I given. It is again string password. What I have given? Tiger admin. Later I have changed. It is a admin. Now we have to be give the connection. For that, what we have to use the object right side driver manager dot get connection URL. What is the three parameters? Database URL, username, and password. Right. So let me just write it. Driver manager. This is the right side. Driver manager dot get connection. What are the three parameters? Database URL, username, and password. Right. So this one close with the colon, and what is the left side? We have to be give connection, and what is the object? Con. So here connection, it is con. Right. So I can directly pass them or three string variables, right? So I have to be get the connection if the connection is established or not. To check this, here again I will do the system.out.println system.out.println connection is established. Connection is established. Okay, I want to get it to print. So this is done. Now what is the third step I want to write? Step 3. What is the step 3? Create the statement object, right? So we have to be create the statement. Okay, how you will create the statement? In the right side, con dot create statement method, right? And statement object you have to be create first. stmt. This is by default object we will create it by everyone, stmt, or you can, it's upon your wish. Like it seems easy, so I use the object stmt. Now con dot create statement method. So this is done. Now create statement method is done. Now you have to be get it print whether the statement object is created or not. For that what you will use, this is cover here. So you have to be get it print, right? System dot out dot println. Here you need to be type a statement object is statement object is created. Here it is cursor. Okay, now you have to be get it confirmed. Once you get confirmed, you have to be immediately go to the step 4, which is nothing but execute the SQL query, right? So here step 4, execute the SQL query. Okay, so this is nothing but the fourth step. You have to be write the query. Okay, if I want to insert one row in EMP table, then what is the columns which I have in EMP table? EMP number, EMP name, salary, hire date, department number, right? So how we will write this? So if you don't remember, so you just open this SQL. Okay, I have to be open the SQL plus here. So what is the username? You have to give admin and okay, username is system. Okay, so username is system. I have given admin, right? So now password. Yeah, it is successful. Now you have to see select star from EM. So here, what is this EMP number, E name, and salary, hire date, department number. So these are the 5 columns which I have. Right. So here you need to be see. Now, what is our fourth step? So we are inserting one row into the table, EMP table. So here you have to be write the query. How you will write? String query, string query is equal to insert into which table? EMP. And what are the values? Values are 7, 9. Okay, anything. And name Dominic. Any name you can give. And salary 7,000 or 799.0. And now hire date, right? Hire date is nothing but the joining date. So what is the format? Date, month, and DD, YY, right? So in that format you have to be write 16 and July and just write or 70. Higher date is 2017. So I have done and department number is 20. Okay, I have mentioned the department number and close the string and close with the colon. It is done. So we have insert one row into the EMP table. Okay, to run this query and to run this query, like what we have to be use which method? Execute update or execute query. Like int count is equal, it is a int, right? So on the time int integer value, then we have to be using execute update here. Execute update, not the execute query. So here int, so what is the count? We want to get it the count. So is equal to which statement, what is our object, stmt, right? Statement object. And for getting the integer value, which one, which method we have to be use, execute query or execute update? Obviously execute update, execute update method. And what is that string object, query, right? So mention here query and close with colon here. Done. So what is our step 5? Our fifth step is step hyphen 5 is we have to be process the result, right? So process the result here. So you have to be how you will process. We just want to see whether it is get processed or not. So on that time, obviously we will use system.out.println and insert query is executed or not. Insert executed or not. Insert query is executed and close with colon. Right. So now what I just want to get it print like a row is inserted as well. So on that time again I will, this is same statement, but here I will want to change it. Okay. So I just want to get you the count, right? First. So count plus row inserted or not. So you have to be mention it in the double quotes. Row inserted. So how many rows inserted? That obviously it is one only because we have just entered one record and we want to be check that. Okay. When I'm fetching like what's value of one row is inserted or not, it we will get that. So that's why we have mentioned the count and how many rows are inserted. So we have to be mentioning it in the double quotes. That is done. One row is inserted, it will show. Now what is the sixth step? We have to be close the connection, right? It is mandatory, otherwise it affects with the performance in the database, right? So it is mandatory to closing the connection. Close the connection. How? What is our object? stmt dot close. You can close the statement object as well as you can close the con dot close connection. We have closed the connection. Con dot close. Closing the connection is done. Okay, now I just want to get it print whether this connection is closed is done or not. System dot out dot println. This I want to get it type 1 statement. Connection is closed. That's it. Connection is closed. And end with semicolon. Now I just want to end the class method and main method. Okay, so it is done. Now what I will do, I'll just what we have to do here, something like here we have already discussed this topics, right? In our like which package we have to be used in our SQL at the time of compilation. So we have to be use this. Let me just mention it. In IDA that it is not required, that obviously we will get in the suggestions, right? But here, instead of getting the suggestions, we have to be type it manually because we are using the notepad. In notepad manually, we have to be type. What's the package that we have to be give here? So here I want to import that package name. Import Java dot SQL, right? Import.java.sql. So this is a package I want to give. Now here we have to be add the throws exception. Throws exception. Okay. So just copy this class name and we have to be save it. Where I want to save it in the D drive. As D drive is empty, so here dot Java and save the type as always. Put it as a all files. Now click on save method. So here now you want to run this, right? So this is a SQL plus. Now I'll go to the command prompt. So our command prompt is open. Now where we have saved our file in D drive, right? So you have to be mentioned D colon. Now you have to be compile it. So Java C, what is the class name? Insert.employee dot Java. Okay, so compile this one. Here spelling I have mentioned wrong and we have to be correct it. Exception. Control S. Now Java C insert underscore emp dot Java. Okay. So what it is saying, we have to be give the capital letter again. No problem. Go to the command prompt. Type here Java C dot Java. Yes, hopefully now we got it. Now we have to be give the location where our JDBC driver is. So open this files and go to the C drive. We have saved in the C drive, right? So admin product 21C here. If we exactly don't know where we have C saved, then I guess JDBC. As last time in the last class, I have seen directly typing the JDBC 8 or 11, so you will get the options right in the same thing. A JDBC. Where is this? JDBC. Here. Lib folder and which one I want? I want the JDBC HR. So copy this location and go to the command prompt here. What we have to do, set the class path first. Class path is equal to type in and what is this? OJDBC didn't get copied, right? So OJDBC you have to be type it manually, that would be enough. Okay, now we have to be use the colon. So why we have to be use the colon? To separate it. Okay, and we have to use the dot. Why do we have to be use the dot? To move to the next drive, right? Okay, so it is moved. Now we have to be run this Java insert underscore emp Okay, so what is this? We have got the driver is loaded and our connection is established, statement object is created, and insert query is executed, one row is inserted, connection is closed. Right. So here it is. What is the first one? Like our driver is loaded, right? Our driver is loaded and connection is established and a statement object is created. Now we just want to get it count, right? So count is how many rows we have, because we have only inserted one row, so it is showing only one row is inserted. And now we are saying that okay, now it got printed, right? So just close the connection. So that's why it is showing the close the connection. Now you want to get it confirmed whether in emp table in sql whether this row is inserted or not. You have to be get the confirmation. How you will do? Go to the sql plus, and here you have to be type it, select star from which table? emp table, right? emp here. So earlier it was 7 rows, now it is 8 rows. Last row you can see here 7999 Dominic. Okay, so salary, and this is the date and this is the department number. So now successfully 8 row is inserted. When we write this Java program in Notepad or in Eclipse, whenever we are uh, writing the Java code and after giving the connection, we have to be cross check whether it is successfully inserted or not. Right.